Well, it's the bell of the ball. It's time for their season preview coming up. The Tampa Bay Lightning. I wonder if Jeremy's watching this. Hey, Jez, if you're watching this. This is obviously the returning Stanley Cup champions and a team that for the next few years will be in the conversation to be Stanley Cup champion. They'll be right up there. This reminds me a lot of the Blackhawks about, 10 years ago, just starting their run. They've got all the pieces. They've got way too much talent that are going to be well into their prime and the ability to win a cup for the next 5 years. They have a great goaltender. They have a great decor. They have an excellent top six. So it's really just the depth. And so obviously I'm not going to talk too much about what happened last season. We all know what happened. They raced the Stanley Cup and they pretty much dominated every team in the playoffs, and they did the one thing that they haven't been able to do in pretty much every playoff round but before that, and that is the second they've got their foot on the neck of a team, they didn't let it go. The year that the Penguins beat them in the Eastern Conference Final, they got them to Game 7. It was all of those. They lose Game 5, they lose Game 6 when they're in control of the series. This didn't happen this time. They were able to win those games and not allow it to go to the track meet that is a Game 7. And they were just better. I don't think they lost a game back-to-back. I could be wrong, but I don't think they lost a game back-to-back, which is an unbelievable record. They also had that 5 OT juggernaut to start off with, beating Columbus, and then you kind of knew once they beat Columbus, it was like, okay, they might be on here. So they have lost some players. Verhaeghe, Shattenkirk, Coburn, Paquette, Bogosian. These are all players that are going to be missed, especially a few of them that did hit or did move the puck, like Shattenkirk's type of play. They were able to find some pretty cheap players to fill a fair few roles last year. I really like Verhaeghe last year. So they're going to need to find players within their depth chart to be able to fit those roles. Cam Foote, is he ready? Is he an NHL player? Like, will you be able to see that? He's going to need to be. He's really going to need to be. Now they're cap compliant. Obviously, a few weeks ago, they were wondering how we're going to get this team how they were going to get cap compliant. Kucherov being out, which is definitely not on purpose. There's no way you probably have your best player out. He's not the best player on the team, then he's very close to the best player on the team. You don't have him miss time for this. And then obviously the Paquette and the Coburn trade, which then brought on Gabrick and Nielsen back, who are just going straight onto IR. So they found a very creative way to be cap compliant here. It's really going to be up to a few of the stars. Chiarelli just signed a really big deal too. I'm curious to see if he can take the next step. I think he's a big part of the future here. I think they're going to need Point to be a bit more of a superstar. Last year wasn't a bad year. He was almost points per game in the regular season. However, we kind of saw in the playoffs what he can be. And that is like a bona fide superstar, like top 5 in this league. And they're going to probably need him to be around that. I can't see Stamkos coming in and being a top 10 player in this league anymore. I think he'll be good, but they're going to miss Kucherov. They need someone to just elevate that line. But it is a handy problem that when Kucherov comes out, Stamkos comes in. I think that does fix a few problems in the lineup. And Chiarelli as well, I think, will have a bit more of an elevated position this year. So I'd be curious to see how that all works out for him. Seeing if he can get that point total up and go from there. Also Sergachev. I think as every year is going past, they're giving him more responsibility, more of a role. I think this year he starts to get even more of a role there. I really liked him in the playoffs. He scored some pretty key goals, or was part of some pretty key goals, and stood up when he needed to, and let Hedman take a bit of a break, which is what you need to do from time to time. And Vasilevsky in net. Come on. He's a very good goalie. He's not the best goalie in the league, but he's a very, very good goalie. And when you're in front of a pretty good defense in front of you, and a great system, and forwards who can score goals at will, you're going to win a lot of games. So they're really a complete team. And only losing core pieces and being able to keep everything together, I still think Tyler Johnson's on his way out. And they managed to keep Killorn, which is pretty big. It's going to be curious to see how this all plays out for this team. I still think if they're not winning a cup this year, it's really hard to win back-to-back. That's the thing. And I think in this COVID year too, it might be a bit funky to say. So to say they're going to win the Stanley Cup's a big prediction. I think they'll be first in this division, in the Central, which Florida is the most central state of them all, as you all know. I get why they're in there, but I do understand it. It's they're definitely going to be first there, but whether they can go further in the playoffs, it'll probably consider on what deals they make. I do consider that they will probably make some deals a bit at the deadline just to get a little bit more depth in to help out there. But we'll see how that all works out. But yeah, I do think they'll dominate in the regular season. I think they've learned, again, that you don't need to be the President's Trophy winner. You just need to do well. And then in playoffs, that's when you need to dominate. That's it. But I think there's some weak teams in this division, and they're going to eat them alive. And there's some teams with some pretty big weaknesses that they're playing, like Florida, who I actually think will be good this year, or better this year, and Columbus, and they're going to eat them alive too. So it's going to be very curious to see how this all plays out for them. But again, this is another team that's wake me up when the playoffs start, because you're not really going to see too much in this regular season. It's really going to be get there, and then we'll see how they go doing this. But yeah, if they don't win it this year, like, they're going to be in the dance for the next 5 years, at least the next 4 years. So they might Black Hawk this, and they win every other year or something like that. Winning back-to-back is so difficult. And that's the whole thing. You just want to be around. You just want to be around that conversation, so when you get your chance, you can win another cup. This team's so good that, one cup isn't really enough, and I think a lot of people can agree with me on that. So we'll see how it all goes. But yeah, super curious how Point goes this year. I think he'll do pretty well. I think that's another player that you want in the fantasy. Their power play and goals for are great this year, were great last year. Their PK was middle of the run, which I was a bit surprised with, but I guess they can't be top 10 in everything. They were pretty much in every other stat, they'll top 10, so it was the only one that was a bit that's a bit odd. So we'll see with some youth coming in whether that PK might come down a little bit here, because usually, young guys get in there. But yeah. Anyway, guys, that is the whole video. Not too much to analyze with this team. It's just, went into the playoffs. Because there's no real big changes. They lost some depth. That's pretty much it. They didn't bring anyone in. So it is just, what are we going to do? Kucherov is out. He'll come back for playoffs. And, they'll probably dominate again. So, who can beat them? That's it. It's really who can beat them in the playoffs. And, they'll be up against some pretty big challenges this year, I think, especially being a COVID year. So, very exciting to see this team and what it ends up being. But, yeah, this is definitely my cup tip. It's so easy to tip them to win a cup, so it's kind of give us something else. But, yeah, this is the tip that I have to go back-to-back. I think this team's good enough to go back-to-back. I mean, things have to go their way for that to happen, but they were so dominant last year that they didn't really rely on bounces. They didn't get lucky bounces. They didn't get a Game 7 lucky bounce or anything there. They really dominated every round. So yeah. Anyway, also, if you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button. That really does help us out. You have no idea how much that helps us out with the motivation levels. We're at 321. It's kind of been stagnant there for a month, pressing, but that's the way it is. And comment down below, what do you think the Tampa Bay Lightning will be this year? Do you also think they're winning a cup? Or, are you worried that lack of depth? They do have a lack of grit. They were able to bring Maroon and keep him in the team, so that I think helps a lot. I think Shattenkirk's a real underrated loss for them. I really do. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. See you, and bye.